George Will is with us now, NewsNation senior political contributor, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist. I have rarely laughed so hard on a Saturday morning as watching you and Bill Maher together. It was absolutely fantastic. Loved it. What is it about this feeling of unfairness in America? And I think people really feel right now that the American economy is unfair to them, that they can't get ahead, they can't pay their bills. What is the connection to that and suddenly this infatuation with socialism?
It has been said, Leland, that the people who propelled Mr. Mamdani to victory were the barista proletariat. That is, people who have gone to college, have their degrees, have their college debt to prove they've been to college, yet they're somehow not living above the waterline, or at least they don't think they are. Now, they've chosen to live in New York, a very expensive city. This is a city, Leland, in which, remember, Mayor Bloomberg, one of the richest men in the world, said New York is a luxury product. You have to have money to be happy there. These people are there, they don't have a lot of money, and they're not happy. And they feel that somehow they've paid the price of a college degree to get into an American elite, and they are not feeling elite at all.
Okay. Does that present a problem for us capitalist-like folks and conservative-minded folks, conservative not necessarily being Republican, but conservative in values, traditional in values, that there seems to be such a large and vocal barista proletariat, as you call them?
Well, I don't think people elsewhere should worry so much, because I think this is very much a New York City phenomenon right now. If these young people who have chosen, I emphasize chosen, to live in this very expensive place were to go to Fort Worth or Fort Wayne or Charlotte or Columbus or Phoenix, they'd be a lot happier. And a lot of them are going to. I mean, a lot of the rich people who pay the bills in New York have left New York. Now, along comes this socialist mayor. He says, we're going to solve all our problems and make everybody happy by taxing the rich. Leland, the top 1% of taxpayers in New York pay about 50% of the tax revenue in the income tax. That is, we're talking about less than 100,000 people in a city of 8 million. So this man is apt to accelerate departure of the people who are already paying the bills, and they are his plan for paying even more of the bills.
Right, and then begins the downward spiral that we've seen so often when socialism gets tried again. Time magazine has put him on the cover of the magazine, The Meaning of Zohran Mamdani. I read the piece. It is quite fangirly, for lack of a better adjective. I'm not so much interested in what Time thinks is the meaning of Zohran Mamdani, because they seem to at least embrace it or love it. What do you see as the meaning of Zohran Mamdani?
I think this is a moment of utter unseriousness in politics. Perhaps the most famous mayor of New York ever was Fiorello LaGuardia. From his name, you'd think he was an Italian-American and a Catholic. He was actually a Republican Episcopalian. And he famously said, there's no such thing as a Republican or a Democratic way of collecting the garbage. Well, if you've been in New York in the August when they're having trouble collecting the garbage, you know that's a serious issue up there. And the fact is that Mr. Mamdani has never run anything larger than a small office of a nonprofit or his state assemblyman office in Albany. Suddenly, if he gets elected, he's going to be in charge of a city with 300,000 municipal employees. This is perhaps no time to experiment. But what used to be called, when we had a socialist mayor in Milwaukee many years ago, about 100 years ago, he called it sewer socialism. That is, it wasn't about nationalization. It wasn't about culture wars and wokeism and all this stuff that's now accumulated like barnacles on the idea of socialism. This was just city services. And if your city services don't work in New York, people have a very short temper and less patience. So this is going to be, if he's elected, quite an experiment.
Quite an experiment indeed, and you point out at 33 years old, quite good at giving a speech, quite short on meaningful accomplishments in his life that would say he's ready for such an endeavor. But if we zoom out to the national view. CNN, Trump versus Harris. Trump was plus 7 points on the economy, plus 9 points, I should say. Now net approval on inflation minus 25 points, yet the stock market is a record high. Come next summer, as people begin to think about the midterms, and I say people, unlike you and I in Washington, that thinks about them the minute the presidential race is over, what matters more, prices or the level of your 401k?
Prices, because prices are a reminder inflicted on you every week when you go to the grocery store and every week when you fill up your gas tank. It was interesting, Leland, you mentioned beef prices being up. My goodness, get between Americans and their cheeseburgers on Labor Day weekend. All heck was going to break loose. Nothing, Leland, radicalizes a middle-class democratic nation faster than the price level, because it is, as I say, a constant irritant, a constant reminder, and a constant sense of this is the contact we're having with our government. Now, the irony here is the point of tariffs, Leland, is to raise prices. So that is to make goods imported expensive so that there will be less competition that will suppress the raising of prices of domestic products. So if Mr. Trump's tariffs work, prices are going to go up. And he's going to have to try and explain to the American people why they shouldn't blame him for that. It'll be an interesting argument.
Well, he's already made the argument, which is that he's bringing in trillions or hundreds of billions of dollars of investment into the United States to create more and better paying jobs, and therefore, relatively speaking, the price of things won't seem as painful. But you say radicalizes a democratic country, which obviously America is, small d, not Democratic Party, but radicalizes the middle class here. If the middle class becomes radicalized, as you say, and it was radicalized during the last election, it's why we got Donald Trump in, does that portend well for the Zohran Mamdanis around America? And they're ready, they're waiting, they're starting their campaigns for Congress for Democratic socialists or socialists to do well in Democratic primaries and thus likely gain a larger foothold in power.
I don't think so, Leland. Remember, the last time we had a really serious bout of inflation was the 1970s. The country at that point didn't say, oh, too bad, Jimmy Carter, we're moving to the left. They said, goodbye, Jimmy Carter, hello, Ronald Reagan, who kept on the man who was appointed by Jimmy Carter, Paul Volcker, who at the Federal Reserve put the country through sky-high interest rates, a wrenching recession, but got rid of inflation. The American people, I don't think, move left when they're unhappy about economics. They move right. And that is a problem, I think, that most Democratic candidates for the House next year are going to be well aware of.
Mr. Will, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you for the insight and for the perspective. And now we see the socialism on experiment in real time. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.